Thinking about leaving your soul-sucking 9 to 5 job, one of the biggest struggles I see people, especially as women, face is the idea of having that safety net, that enticing perks and benefits, and listening to that head trash of what will people think if I leave. I totally get it, and I've been where you are. That's why I created a free guide to help you if you're thinking about putting in that notice. It's called Unlocking Your Exit Plan. Discover 5 things you need to do before leaving your 9 to 5. This guide is filled with worksheets and steps so you will have hand holding along the way. You can download your copy in the link in the show notes, and again, it's totally free. Now back to today's episode. Hey there, let's face it. Today's internet world is so saturated and everyone is fighting for that number one spot to be visible. It is no longer about running ads and having thousands of people on your email list. It is about building relationships and networking with others to grow your business and become visible. Hi, my name is Candace. I'm a podcast launch strategist and I help service-based business owners develop and deliver their message to the world by using platforms like podcasting and bringing valuable content to those who need to hear what they have to say. Welcome to the Hello C.S. Dorsey podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to this special episode, this special edition of the Hello C.S. Dorsey podcast. I'm so excited. I have Kathe Kline from South Carolina from Rock Your Retirement podcast show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Candace?
I'm doing well. So tell our listeners out there a little bit about yourself and your business.
Well, my business is called MedicareQuick. And basically, I'm an insurance agent that helps people who are either aging into Medicare or they're the power of attorney for somebody who's on Medicare and they're trying to change plans. I basically help people who have a lot of questions.
That's awesome. Yeah, because people have so many questions. I think a lot of people probably, they want to do it, and especially people like my mom's age, they want to jump and, retire and everything. But I don't think a lot of people give them enough information that they need. So it's good that you're there to kind of like give that support, because it's like there's really no resources to ask additional questions, as far as like wanting to retire and Medicare and things like that. So I'm really happy that you have that service for people out there. That is so cool. So today we're going to talk about how you use your podcast to grow your business. And I'm a big advocate of this because a couple of years back, I had a blog. And with my blog, I reached out to people on Craigslist. Don't judge me. That was like, I didn't know anything a couple of years ago about going on Facebook groups or anything like that. So Craigslist has like really been a part of me reaching out to people and getting on my blog, because I publish books and I help authors. So I kind of use the concept. I have a blog, I have this platform, people are wanting to be on my platform. Why not just turn this into an audio form? Because I've gotten a client by reaching out who was on my blog to become my client when I was a VA. So I was like, this is definitely something that I could use to help get clients and grow my business. So I want to know more about how you utilize your podcast to essentially grow your business.
So first of all, Candace, you should know that my podcast has nothing to do with Medicare. So you're like, how the heck do you grow your business, or how did you grow your business by starting a podcast that has nothing to do with your business? So I will tell you. So the name of my podcast is called Rock Your Retirement. I started it in 2016 when nobody knew what a podcast was. And certainly my target audience, who is 62 years old, had no idea what a podcast is. In fact, some of them still don't know what a podcast is. And so originally, I knew I wanted a podcast because I was just obsessed with listening. I love the fact that it was like the radio. Candace, have you ever been listening to the radio and you kind of just, it's in the background and then somebody says something and your ears perk up and you're like, wait, what did they just say?
Yes.
Only there is no way to back that up. You cannot back up the radio. But you know what? With a podcast, I could back it up and I could go, oh, that's what they're talking about. So I just loved listening to podcasts. And so I thought, how can I have a podcast and what can I talk about? Well, At the time, I was really trying to figure it out. So I was throwing some ideas around. And one of the ideas was, well, I am in the senior services industry, and I could create a podcast where I could showcase some of the people who could give me leads. And I thought, well, how can I do that? And then at the same time, I have been trying to figure out how to retire for the last, I don't know how many years. Now, financially, Candace, I can retire now. I could have retired back then. I don't have to work. But there is something in me. I'm right there on the edge of baby boomers. I'm not technically a baby boomer. I'm technically a Gen Xer, but I've always kind of related to baby boomers. Don't judge me. I know a lot of people don't like baby boomers, but that's always been who I've related to. And a lot of us have a hard time retiring. And, we're like, well, what am I going to do? And so what I did was I merged those two desires together. One is my desire to learn about retiring, not about the money part, but about everything else. And the other desire was to elevate some of these people who could help me in my business. And that is how the Rock Your Retirement show formed. Now, it was a great idea, but it was very difficult to implement. You want to know why?
Why?
Because all of these people that I thought would be thrilled to be on my show, think back, it was 2016. Nobody knew what a podcast was.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to bribe them to come on my show. They're like, oh, I don't know why I want to be on this show. I don't even know what it is. I mean, they didn't even have the idea that it was two guys talking in their basement. They had no idea what it was. And so in the beginning, I used to give my networking partners an advertisement on somebody else's interview. So I would interview them, and then I would say, oh, and if you come on my show, we'll do like a little 30-second ad, or you'll do I made them do it. I didn't want to get involved. And so I had them do an ad, and I would put it on another show, on another one of my episodes. So let's say I was interviewing you,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would say, Candace, if you come on to my show, I am going to have another show next week with Bob, and your ad will be on Bob's show. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so that's what I did. And really what happened was these networking partners didn't really know me that well, because I had really just launched my business in 2015. And I had met a lot of these networking partners in 2016. So they didn't really know me that well. But when I was able to get them to come on the show, guess what? They got to know me.
Mm-hmm.
And I still get referrals from a lot of these people. And I don't live in San Diego anymore, and most of them live in San Diego. It kind of launched my business a year later.
That's awesome. No, because the thing of it is, in this today's society, we want things right yesterday, right? So, letting people know that these things do take time. I mean, I was in that space where I was just like, oh, my podcast, I only got one listener, what? But I said, no, Candace, it's not about the one listener or the 200 listeners that you have so far. It's about giving that value. And Candace, this is going to be going on for years and years and years. So it's still going to be there. And people from years to come is going to listen to you and find you. I have found podcasters now who's, have multi-million-dollar business that's like 230 something in their episodes already. And I'm listening to day one. I'm going like all the way back. And I'm listening to day one. And I listened to it. I was like, oh, Candace, don't be so bad that your podcast started off sounding like poop. Because theirs did too. So I feel so much better.
I hate it when people tell me they're listening to episode 1. They went back to the beginning. I'm like, please don't listen to that.
I didn't erase that, right?
Yes. And see, that's another thing. I've had over 225,000 downloads now. And so all of those people that helped me by coming on my show in 2016, they're still getting downloads. People are still listening to them. So there is nothing like a podcast. Nothing like a podcast. Now I know that a lot of people they will drop out after, we call it the seventh episode. People will start a podcast. They have it in their idea that they're going to become rich and famous. They're going to be like Mike Marin or whoever these other podcasters are that have 20 people working for them.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Candace, but I don't have a team of 20 people
I don't
helping
either.
me with my podcast.
Me neither. One day.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever have that. My show actually just cut back to once a month, and I changed my format. But the show, you can definitely use a podcast to help your business, even if it's not direct. I mean, I start my show with, welcome to the Rocky Retirement Show. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about insurance. We talk about everything else that has to do with retirement lifestyle. That's how I start my show. So I tell people right away, this is not a money show.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an insurance show, even though, occasionally I do have a little ad for myself. I'll try to give away a little freebie. But honestly, I have made zero money from my podcast. Zero. All of the business that I have gotten from that podcast is the relationships that I have built with the guests. And I don't even have those type of guests anymore. The guests that I used to have on the show, I really don't. For the next year, what we're going to be doing on my show is following a woman who was 3 months prior to retirement. She made her announcement. So we've done one episode so far that will be released first part of September, most likely. And then she and I are going to be meeting monthly for the next 12 months. And I'm hoping that she'll go 18, but I don't want to put that on her. I would like to go 12 months after her actual retirement date. Mm-hmm. But she has agreed to do 12 months. And so it's a much different show than it was in the beginning. And I think there's a lot of people like me that kind of are like, okay, so what are you feeling when you make the announcement? What's going to happen 6 months later after you've retired, like after you've done all the housekeeping that you can do and gone on trips? Hopefully someday we'll be able to go on a trip. I mean, who knows?
I know, right?
Right. Because we're recording this during COVID.
Yes.
And so yes, your listeners can definitely make money off of their podcast or their blog or whatever they're trying to do, even if the podcast has nothing to do with their business. You just have to figure out a way to tie that in together, figure out a way to build those relationships or, whatever your goal is, and think outside the box,
That's right. And I love that you said that your podcast has nothing to do with your business, because I've gotten website design clients from being on my show to do their website. And I don't talk about website design as much, maybe just a little, maybe like 5%. But I just talk about, taking action and, taking those first steps in your business and just going for it, just doing it. And that's my motivation for others. I actually pivot and I said, I'm on this journey to quitting my 9-to-5. When I'm going to do it, I don't know. What I'm going to do, I don't know. But I want you to come on the journey with me, because I see a lot of entrepreneurs out there that say, I quit my 9-to-5. And I'm like, okay, well, how'd you do it? What was your journey like? So I want people to go on that journey with me. If it's going to take 3 years, still come on the journey with me. I don't care, because it's a lot of moving parts, and it doesn't take overnight to want to quit your 9-to-5. And that's something that a lot of people want to do, but I want them to come on the journey with me to let them know, hey, you're not going to do it in a month. It's going to take probably years to even get to that point where you can say, I'm going to quit my 9-to-5. So I kind of shift a little bit and pivot, so I can have people to go on the journey with me, because this is something that I'm very passionate about doing. So yeah. And another thing, your podcast is not going to be what it was, when you first started. Like,
no way.
I changed my intro 3 times.
Wow. So I paid a guy on Fiverr to do my intro.
I finally figured it out and did that this last time.
Okay, let me tell you what happened. So he did my intro, and I had him give me the music. Whenever I do anything, I want to make sure that it's legal.
Yeah.
So he sent me whatever thing that says he could use this music, right? Whatever that's called. And so he did my intro. Well, then like a year later, because he has an Australian accent, it's a man, I'm a woman. One of my listeners said, why do you have that guy doing your intro? You should be doing your own intro. Why are you having him? And I thought about it. I don't know. I kind of like the intro and changed it up a little bit, made it shorter. But then over time, I was like, you know what? That listener's right. Why is he doing my intro? And so what I did was I took the music that he had given me the right to, that we have the right to use. And then I put my voice on top of that music. And so the reason why I did that was so the listener would still know it was the same show.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And so, yeah, I totally changed. We all change our podcast. Just like I'm not the same person I was, oh my goodness, prior to March of 2020. I mean, we all change, we all grow, and your podcast grows with you. And I think the listeners enjoy going on that journey. Just like you said, you want to go on that journey of quitting to your 9 to 5. I think your target listener is going to enjoy that, taking that journey with you.
Yes, that's the plan. So I love it. Love every minute of it. Every minute of it. Yes. So what 3 takeaways can you give to our listeners out there?
Okay. Well, first of all, you don't have to directly sell anything to make your podcast work for you. Now, I have tried selling things on a podcast. For me, it's been a huge flop. In fact, I've tried getting people to do Patreon. I've tried all kinds of things. When I decided that I was going to change the show, and I wasn't really sure what was going to happen, if I was going to do a quarterly episode or whatever, because I was doing weekly for years. I told the listeners, I said, look, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not making enough money to pay for the show. And I want to start seeing my husband and, just doing things again. So I had some listeners reach out and say, hey, can I just give you a lump sum check? And I'm like, no, I really don't want to do that. I don't want to have to deal with figuring out taxes. I just want to do it through Patreon. So it didn't really work. And doing affiliate marketing didn't work. So I really, like I said, I'm not able to sell anything on my show, even though I'm a good salesperson. I sell for a living. But apparently I can't sell anything on the show. So you don't have to directly sell. That's takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2, which probably should be takeaway number 1, is that you don't have to have a podcast that is directly about your business. If you sell real estate, your podcast doesn't have to be how to find a home. It doesn't have to be a direct connection. Mine isn't. Now, the listeners are my target audience, though. So I did an avatar. I don't know if you know what an avatar is for your podcast.
Yeah.
So my avatar, and people listen that are not in my avatar, but my avatar, when I first decided about the show, was a 62-year-old woman with 2 children and at least 1 grandchild. That was my avatar. Now, is that my only listener? No. That was my avatar that I picked. And so my avatar eventually could become my client, right? Because who are my clients? People generally, when they're turning 65, they become my clients. So my avatar, I'm like, well, my avatar will get to know me and then reach out to me for Medicare insurance. That didn't really work so well. But again, go back to number 1, I have built relationships with people who could refer business. So 1 referral is worth a lot more than 1 client to me, because that referral source can give me 15 clients.
Right.
So it has really helped me build those referral partners. And then the 3rd takeaway, people will listen to these episodes in the future. So you have to explain, if you're brand new in podcasting. Now, probably going to be easier for the listener now than it was for me, because nobody knew what a podcast was when I started this, when I started mine. People actually know what a podcast is now. But you need to explain to the guest that it's not a one-time listen. It's not, oh, you're going to get 100 people to listen to your episode next week when it's released. No, I mean, I have people listening to the very first episode that I did in 2016. The guest needs to understand the value. You are giving that guest a platform that they don't have now. Even if you're new, let's say you have 25 listeners. Well, if you were in a room with 25 people, I mean, that's pretty amazing. Let's say you have 200. Let's say you have 200 listeners. Well, I don't know about you. If I was in a room with 200 listeners or 200 people, my heart would go a little pitter-patter when I walked up to that microphone. So just remember that your listeners need to think about this is a really, really good platform. And even if you only have one listener today, that show, that episode over time could still get 150, 200 listens. So it's pretty amazing, this podcasting thing that we
It
do.
is. I love it. I can't say enough about it. It's what actually gets me out of bed. Some days, when I have an interview or I know I need to batch those episodes and I'm like, but I do it because I'm like, I've came this far. I can't quit now. I can't. No. And
You go, girl.
Yeah, I cannot quit now. I'm coming up on a year in November 19th to be exact.
It'll be an anniversary soon.
Yes. And besides me writing my books, this is the only thing that I've actually really, really stuck with. So I'm very proud of it and I think it's awesome. So where can everyone find you?
I would say the easiest place to find me, if you're interested in the show, would be rockyourretirement.com. And that has all my social media for Rock Your Retirement. And if you or your mom or your grandma or anybody needs Medicare advice, I actually have a whole free class for people to take that's got like maybe 20 videos, short videos that explain things about Medicare, things that people don't really know when they're, if you don't know, you don't know. And I was a financial advisor for over 25 years. I didn't know anything about Medicare. The whole reason I got into this business, Candace, is my husband has to pay a penalty now for the rest of his life because some insurance agent who sold him his first policy on Medicare told him he didn't need a drug plan because he didn't take any drugs. And the penalty that we have to pay is more than the drug plan costs. So that really ticked me off. That is why I got into the Medicare business. So anyway, if you have any questions about Medicare or want to take these courses or whatever, go to MedicareQuick.com. And so quick is spelled the normal way, Quick, nothing fancy, nothing cute, just MedicareQuick.com. And that also has information on how you can contact me as well.
Awesome. We're going to definitely link that up in the show notes for this episode so everybody can definitely just click on and go directly to it. Well, Kathe, I'm so happy that you came on this special episode, special edition today. And thank you so much for the value that you brought and the feedback that you've given. And, hopefully this will help my listeners or those out there who want to start a podcast and, want to use it to bring value and want to stick with it. And know that there's something that will come out of it later on. It's not a quick thing. I really do thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored, and I can't wait for November 19th for your anniversary. We'll celebrate together.
Yes, definitely. Hey, did you like this episode? Don't forget to subscribe and share. And also drop me a line or two. I will love to hear your feedback in the review. Thank you.